Okay, so let's focus on these three main categories. Now, the first category is something you would think of as essential. This is more related to the body, to the digestion, the lower desires and such. And then, of course, there's social, the second category in the middle, and then finally intellectual. Now, in your day-to-day life, assumingly like a good amount of it is going to be taken up by essential things, and of course the more you are like lower class. See, lower class represents the essentials, the mandatory, the things you have to do. Lower class people, usually you would assume, work jobs which are the essential jobs. Farming is one of these things. Any kind of resource production or refining or manufacturing. If we don't have things manufactured, then we can't do anything. The economy doesn't function. If we don't have raw materials from farming, then again, nothing works. Also, utility and like infrastructural services, which means electrical work, plumbing and gas, building of housing and other buildings, right? Manufacturing of automobiles, etc. These are all like essential things that create things, or utilities, water service, the way you heat your food, etc., the way you turn on your computer and the internet, all these things that we use. These are like the things we need, right? Services or resources. And the lower class usually is related to this, while the middle class is related to social services and social things. And you think in your own life, how much time are you spending on social media? Or in the past, it was for when life was more physical, people would be at the bar. They would work and they would go to the bar or the cafe. For Europeans, is your country a cafe country or is it a bar country? Men and women have different ways to be together and to socialize. Assumingly, in the past, women would socialize together at homes, I would imagine, while men would socialize in like out of the home, as I said, in the cafe or the bar. And this is like what you think of as social activity, right? And some people work social jobs, and the middle class, of course, is represented by this. They are usually trying to always be in accordance with social order and social law and social rules and such. The idea of like virtue signaling, which is when you say like, "Oh, I am, such a good person. You give me good boy or good girl points for being such a good person," and parroting essentially what the upper class dishes out and tells you, the idea of virtue signaling, right? Anyway, jobs for this, of course, is anything. One thing I forgot to mention: the job of caring. I would put like any kind of caring job. I would put as a like an essential, like a lower essential kind of thing, because you've got to think, if children aren't raised and cared for, they either they die, like they just don't grow up. Of course, now we have a lot of safety nets where the caring can be done by. Sometimes it's done by society, unfortunately, of course, but it is a pretty essential thing. So that's just on the more feminine side, because of course the masculine side is chopping down trees and turning them into lumber, and then building a house frame out of that. Right, that's a very masculine thing. But the feminine side would be raising and caring and nurturing. So in the middle, social jobs is anything to do with is merchantry, the buying and selling of things. That's a social job. All about like connections. It's all about relationships. You and your manufacturer, your suppliers, and your postage services and such. It's all about relating, and then to get people, to advertise and to get sales and such, people to look at your products and to buy them. It's all a very social thing. So the middle class are the merchants. The lower class are the people who produce and build stuff. The middle class is then the merchants, the people who buy and sell stuff, right? Of course, human resources is also considered a social middle kind of job. And then above is the intellectual world, or of course the upper class. And this is when you are doing things related to hobbies you have, interests, or you're doing intellectually, like you're learning stuff. It's the kind of stuff where, you're going to survive if you don't, you will still survive if you don't do the intellectual stuff. You won't survive if you don't do the practical resource. That if you don't eat and sleep and drink and have shelter, you're going to find it very difficult to survive, right? The intellectual stuff can, of course, act as a multiplier. Once you understand mathematics, you then unlock multiplication, which then lets you think of, like, just say you own a business, you can calculate all your expenses and costs, and you can hypothesize. It's like, all right, if I did this, and it cost this amount, what would this do? And you can work out some average figures, right? Of course, always applying a 10 to 20% positive or negative, depending on, to make things a little more realistic, right? This is, as I said, just when you're learning on the computer, doing technical work, and you think the upper class are these people. They rely on their intelligence to get around, and these people assumingly have deep knowledge of the system of life and all these kinds of things. This is like, it's your sages and your kings, your magicians. Nowadays it's like your people who are in programming and in science and in math and any kind of, even things like accounting, certain forms of like higher level management. Like a manager is more of a social, it's like an upper social job, but like really high level management where it's, instead of managing people, you're managing like companies and systems. Then you get to that point. And this is a thing where you can make a lot of money and gain a lot of power, but it's the thing where it's very specific. Usually it's very precise. It's a bit like, I think a boat architect makes a lot of money, right? An airplane architect makes a lot of money, but each town does not require a boat architect. Each country only requires a certain amount of plane architects, right? Not a lot of them. So there isn't a huge demand for a boat or plane architect. But every town needs a carer. They need someone who works with wood and stone, right? And most towns, pretty much all of them really, are going to need like HR, people who are on the phone, who are managing stuff. They're going to need people who sell supplies, right? The higher up you go, the less of an essential thing it is. I learned that it's more practical to go into a practical field. You look at what your town and surrounding towns has available as work. Some people live in a mining town. It's probably a smart idea to get involved in the mining industry or to probably leave. It's good to be resourceful, and it's good to understand things for what they are, because currently we're kind of we're in an economic time right now where you can't really play around. This isn't the 60s and 70s anymore, where you could walk up to a store and get a job and then quit it and then get another job in the next moment, right? It's not like, that's not how this works. The economy is very strained and under pressure right now. Due to immigration and offshoring labor, and the integration now of AI and robotics is going to be, that's the first thing was mechanization. It was the industrial age, right? Then it was the offshoring and immigration, right? And the third thing, I don't know if you want to break those up into more things, but whatever, the third thing we can think is the integration of robotics and AI in the workplace. And I think now, long term, it's a smart idea to learn how to use all this stuff, because ultimately the jobs will just be a singular person managing a bunch of robots, or you will be managing the robots, a bit like how Nowadays, instead of calculating in your mind, you're using a calculator and then a computer, you're using a robot, or it's like instead of using a hand drill, you're using a power drill. So I don't believe the idea that like everyone's just going to get like wiped out and lose a job. I think the same way the industrial age probably wiped out, 40% of jobs, and then the immigration age probably wiped out another, 40%. It'll continuously do that. New jobs will come. Never, you're never going to need as many people as you did when you had to have them digging and mining and logging in the past. But we can do the best we can, right, to keep going on. But the point being is that while yes, in the future we all will pretty much just be using tons of robotic assistants to create companies and make money however we can make money, still that's not quite there yet. And actually, ironically, what is kind of paying right now is the essential work. At least in my country, you can make a lot more money being a tradesman than you can being probably a banker, to be honest, which is crazy to think. It's absolutely insane. Or like I don't know, a computer worker or something, right? So things almost go full circle, which is strange. But then, of course, that will be a cyclical thing. People say, they kind of joke, it's like, oh, robots will never take my job, and they're like a trades worker. And it's like, well, yes, it will. One day it will. Yeah, that's kind of like the joke. The AI first took over like the creative jobs and like the intellectual jobs, which was like the last thing they thought it would take over. See, as they start introducing robot bodies, yeah, the robots will take over physical jobs, because it's just like, what level is the computer on? It takes over the job related to that level. We just have lots of, think maybe stimulation and programming and resources pulled into it at the level of the vision and the mind. So of course it's going to take over all those visual and mental jobs first, right? Anyway, it's nothing to, I don't want to worry people. It's just kind of how things work. It's like the horse and the car. Just have to get used to it. But anyway, main point of the video is, there are these 3 levels which relate to your life. And you want to think like, how much of my life am I just doing essential things? Like, I seem to be just doing like so much lower level stuff. And I guess that's because I'm a lower level person, or like I'm lower class. And until I've kind of raised my class a bit, it's not really going to be, it's going to be just lower level stuff, which is kind of, honestly, it's a pain in the ass, like literally and physically and mentally, you could say. But it is kind of just what it is. And then it also relates to your job, relates, as I said, to your class, it relates to the economy, it just relates to everything, Like life just divides into categories, if you want to look at it that way. And then that relies on how equal and balanced and healthy your mind is. The unhealthy person sees everything as unhealthy. The healthy person who is ordered and puts everything in the right boxes will see life as everything in its own box, right? Something like that. Anyway, that's about enough. Of course, check links in the description for social and commercial stuff, and have a nice day. So I've noticed that if you have things passively running in the background, that this actually uses your like life energy, so to speak. I've always kind of held the idea that everything external relates to something internal. Everything internal relates to something external. The internal and external world are separated by a wall of flesh being your own body, but they are connected, so to speak. It's like having 2 phones and you have a line connected to them and you can ring the other one. So what these passive things are is, firstly, if you like have something downloading on a computer, see, a lot of the processes you run on a computer, for example, are these passive processes. If you have something downloading, for example, like a file, just say if you have like a video rendering or a music project rendering or something, this can, or compiling, program compiling, anything that causes a computer to run its CPU pretty hard. Similarly, if you run like a video game, or certain programs will use a lot of resources and a lot of CPU, and that uses a lot of electricity, and it produces a lot of radiation. So I think that if you always are running high power applications on a computer, it's detrimental to your health. Bitcoin mining, for example, I would imagine would be something where, having to like run your GPU, your graphics card, all of the little, the cores in there. I imagine that would be, bad radiation wise. I know someone actually, I don't think they died, but I think they had like serious health issues because of it, right? So that's one thing to, keep in mind is it's like almost the more you play a video game, you're trading your life force and your body. The less this video isn't about like, it's bad to use computers or anything. You can use lower power applications, lower power operating systems, simplified applications, like lighter weight ones, and then it won't produce as much power. So you can find a happy medium. But what I've found is that certain programs and certain like things, especially like really high definition 3D games, it kind of puts you into that. And it's not always bad. It's like when you play sport, you get put into that like very nervous system and muscle dominant, very like you're volatile. It's like rest state and there's active state, and you're put in an active state where you're using your energy instead of storing it. So depending on what you want to do. If you had like an oven running or like some water boiling, this is another one of these passive things that's on in the background. To some degree, it's using your life force almost, and you're gonna have to try to feel this out or try to understand it. It's almost like, how you're trying to remember, I've got to remember I've got the oven on, I've got to check my roast in an hour or half an hour or whatever. That's like drawing some of your energy. Or it's like if you need to do something, maybe you need to meet a person in like a couple of hours, it's like that's eating up your energy, right? Or you've got to send something off, or you've got to do something, or you've got to talk to a person or manage something. This is a passive thing that's kind of draining your energy. You're using a power tool, for example, like a strong motor. It's almost like you're using your own life force to like trade for these things, if you can kind of grasp that concept. And I think this would expand out to, if you had a company, the company is based on you. So the success or failure is based on how good you are and experienced you are. That thing where it's like, if you're just good and experienced at something, things just work out well, even though maybe you're like being lazier or sloppier than if you were new at something and you had to put all this work and focus into it. But now you can just kind of be lazy and not care as much, and you get away with a lot more. So that's kind of how things work, right? But if you owned a company and you had people under you, I think you would like internally feel psychically almost if things are going well or they're not going well. If things are going, if like people are misbehaving or they're working properly or the company's healthy. It's like the idea of the egregore, the spiritual entity. The company becomes this like spiritual entity that you can feel and almost see and like sense in a mental, like magical way. And I think your influence, your health would relate to that. Very much so. If you have like a family, you either make that family work or not work. Your health, your state, your psychological state, your physical health, your wealth, all these things make it either work or not. And then that makes either, if you have children, then them either be, strong and healthy and proper and all that, or not. So it's like passively we have an influence, right? The same way that if you, as I said, you're running a computer program that's very high power, or you're downloading a file and it's like, for some reason, it's like, I kind of feel like drained for while that file is downloading. At a base point, at any point in time, whatever is happening in your life is like taking or giving energy, and it's like you're queuing things up. It's like, okay, queuing files to download up. It's all got to, it's got to like digest, and it's almost like updating. You can update your computer, you can also update yourself and update your company and all this stuff. So it all kind of relates, I don't know, in a weird way. Vehicles, if you have like a vehicle, your vehicle relates to you. And if your vehicle gets damaged, maybe you can even take on like psychological damage. It's like in Yu-Gi-Oh! If anyone knows, like the Shadow Realm duels, they're playing a card game, but they're like losing their soul if they lose the game. That's kind of how life works. You'll notice if something bad happens to a guy, it's like he'll go through a divorce, he'll lose his company, he'll become like unhealthy, and all these things happen at once. It's like everything is linked together. Yeah, I think there's a lot more relation between the inner and outer worlds than we think. And I think if we can utilize this to our advantage, one idea would be like having a clean, healthy environment and just people around you who are supportive and good. If you could like cultivate like a healthy family, right, or a healthy house, I think that would be, it's like a passive thing that supports you, right? That's why like a community or a network, I guess, was so helpful. And I guess like expanding on the idea, imagine if there's like a factory near you. That factory it's like an area that's draining the passive life force in the air, right? It's like to do that thing. It's a bit like it's hard to have a person near you who's relaxing if you want to work, because it's almost like the air, the energy around them becomes relaxing. And if you start to work, they get frustrated. Or if you want to relax, then they get, they're frustrated and then they want to start working. It's almost like there's people are fighting for like the stream of water coming through, and people want to just capture the whole stream and take all of the river's water for themselves. They don't really want to leave it to go down the stream. I think of it almost like music. It's like there's a singular song that is playing, and it changes a little wherever you are and whoever you are. It's like people want control of the beat. They want control of the melody, so to speak. I don't know. See for it in your own self. Just see, like, observe the things you do and the stuff you have around you and how it affects you. I'm around computers a lot, so for me it's like software and downloading and like whatever it happens to be. If you're around like tools a lot, see what happens. Like maybe some tools make you feel bad and some tools make you feel good. If you're around people a lot, it's gonna be about people. If you have to like care for someone, think like they've taken a chunk, a percentage, like a couple of pieces of the pizza or cake out of your like passive life force, right? It's like, I guess if you're a mother, you kind of have to like give a certain percentage of yourself. It's kind of like it's stored or invested or given to like your child to continuously like raise them, right? And you're going to feel drained by that, and that's kind of just like what you have to give. The same way, if you work a job, you just kind of give a certain percentage of your day, your hours and your energy, and you trade that for money. And if you give that up, and it's like instantly you just get this boost of energy and you get all this time, but you don't have the money anymore. Maybe if you had a garden, like a field, you're giving a certain amount of your energy and your land and space and resources to that garden, right? So basically, to get things, you have to give. That's how the whole world works. And if you're not very productive or strong, and I don't mean productive as in like working a lot, I mean like a strong root center, like lowest earth center, because that's where like physical structure is, and the water center is more like swelling. A plant doesn't get big unless it has lots of water. It'll just be kind of hard and like rigid, right? So it doesn't swell. But if it doesn't have enough earth, if it has too much water, it's like a mushy, moldy, yucky pumpkin. It needs more earth, it needs more structure, more boundary, more skin, more rigidity, right? And these centers kind of dictate how much you can produce. So a farmer is like a super producer of like resources, and they're always investing their own inner earth and water centers and probably their health centers, into the farm. So it's like what you do outside is inside, and the strength and development of your inside world and health of it is what dictates externally what you get. So if you're not getting what you want, then you don't have the internal organs, energy centers and such developed enough, strong enough. Anyway, it's about enough. Of course, check the link description and social commercial stuff, and have a nice day. So one thing I was thinking is that if we split the human being into two halves, we would have the body and what people think of as the soul, right? Now, anatomically, the brain and like the heart and the lungs, which being more the spiritual organs, quote unquote, maybe the arms, you can think in the rib cage and such, would be a part of this upper part of the soul, while the lower part is the legs, the generative region, the lower kind of digestive region, and also digestive region in general, like the intestines, the stomach and such, debatably, and that would inhabit the body. And a robot is usually, if you think of AI and robotics, the AI is analogous to the soul, and the robotics is analogous or relating to the body. You might have seen the Boston Dynamics robots where they're all dancing, and they got the little dogs, and they got the humanoid robot, running around and doing like kung fu and such. And it's a display to show the engineering skills. And it's very impressive, the engineering skills of the body that we have. But of course, a mechanical body, the same way an animal body, it can be in many forms. The body of a fish is different from the body of a human. Body of like a crab is different. They're optimized for different things, these different forms. Usually the form is, it's got limbs, right, and a torso section and some accessories. But a mechanical body can have wheels, and a crane is technically, I guess you would say, a mechanical body. A car is a mechanical body, a motorcycle, a boat, give or take, these are motorized, inorganic, metallic or some kind of organic plastic material creations, right? And then going on to the soul aspect of it, what really is a part of the soul? What are the spiritual aspects, the non-physical aspects of things like personality, mind, emotions, energy levels? And then even we could look at the spiritual qualities of the lower aspects, things like sex drive or comfort and like stability and fear. These all relate to the root. A sex drive relates to the genitals. Hunger relates to the belly. Energy in general relates to the belly. Because I've always thought if you had batteries in a robot, you'd put it in the belly, and then if you needed, AC to DC or DC to AC or something, or boost converters, or whatever it would be, or like super capacitors or something, you'd probably put the power stuff in the belly. Even the lower aspects have their own non-physical parts to them, which you could say is chemical. Maybe hunger is chemical. It's a signal to the brain or whatever the stomach sends, or maybe the sex drive is again, maybe fear and the sex drive and such are electrochemical signals. It's like you can have it that way, but that's more or less, it is non-physical enough for me. Going on, if you were to program this in, would you have something like states of emotions? Maybe you would have like a container of words, which is like happy, sad, joyful, surprised, etc., etc. And these would be states that the robot would be in. Or you would have things like stress levels. How much percent out of 100 are you? Is the AI spirit in, right? And If it has a higher stress level, then it starts to destabilize and it starts to not want to be at, I don't know, social gatherings or something, or outside. It wants to relax. Maybe it could have things like love even. How much does it love someone? What type of love does it have? Is it a romantic love, or is it just an affectionate love? A love of objects, or is it a love of like cute kittens or something? What kinds of things is this? And then of course you would have the inner thought. We all have thoughts, we all think about things. When we're near people, are we picking up the thoughts of them? Sometimes, maybe, I don't know. But at least we are having thoughts behind our head. Maybe someone is smiling at you, but they're thinking you're an asshole. Or maybe someone is dreadfully terrible social interactions and they come off as an asshole themselves, but internally they're thinking, oh, wow, that's a nice person. You're not even, maybe understanding that they're coming off as an asshole, but they like you or something like that, So we all have our internal states. And I imagine you would have to have this as some kind of loop, as the machine would be having an internal thought loop where it would be, considering things and understanding things, and then it would have lower loops of, again, bundled things of desires. My battery, I need to charge it, or I need this repaired or whatever. And then it has somewhat higher things of emotion. So it's like different pools of water which represent higher to lower states. Of course, the main three, the top being the intellect, the middle being the emotions, and the lower one being root level, more practical desires, animalistic desires, right? Presumably you would have to replicate this. You would then, I would imagine, you would have some kind of thing to represent like memories. What are the likes and dislikes of this soul? What are its experiences maybe that led it to have that? Or maybe it's a fresh soul which has nothing and you have to kind of program in, you say you like the color blue, or you like the color purple or pink or something like that, right? And maybe then eventually it questions that and it reprograms its own databases to say, to like something different. So anyway, these are some of the thoughts that I've had. And I think as time goes on, we will probably stop questioning whether is AI conscious or not. And I think people will hold a view that it isn't, if you get what I mean, but they will act as though it is. So, absolutely insane full moon last night. Every time it's a full moon, I'm like, all right, maybe next time it's not going to be that bad. Yeah, no, it was that bad. It's almost like a psychedelic trip where whatever's kind of on your mind or in your life, like the main important pressing thing, it's just pushed straight to the forefront. And it's just like, that's all you can think about. That's all you have emotions about. And there's all this energy pushing you to do something about it. Make a decision, there's a big deciding moment. And of course, you're making that decision on impulse. So it's very difficult to say whether you do or do not do it. Either way, I hate the full moon so much. It's just, it's such a irritating cycle of just, because then you go to the new moon and you feel like crap. And like the new moon so the full moon is when you're kind of, I think it's like your healthiest, or healthy in quote unquote way, almost manic, because all the energy is circulating and it's like our body's regenerating, right? Well, the new moon, you're kind of stable and almost, wintry and kind of like cold and lethargic almost, and your body starts to like degrade because there's not enough energy circulating. So you might get health issues there. But anyway, the video's not really about that. So astrological locations of the body. Now, if you've looked at one of these charts, let me just bring one up. Okay, so here's the zodiacal man. And we have these, correspondences here, but we also have these funny little pictures that they drew in like the medieval era. These were medical pictures, I think, right? Pretty wild looking things. So here we go. Aries is the head. Taurus, so actually these words, like Leo just means lion in Latin. Pisces just means fish in Latin. I'm going to imagine Aries of course, the god Aries, but it's the ram. It's like the Chinese zodiac just uses animals. Actually, this zodiac uses animals as well. So I'm just going to say the animals. And then we have some weird ones like Virgo being the virgin woman and Gemini being the twins. What kind of animal is that? I don't really know. Going on, the ram is the head. The bull is the throat. The twins are the arms and kind of like the shoulder region. The crab is the breast, or I guess the chest region. In this one here, the lion looks to be the liver. So is the lion the heart or is it the liver? In this depiction, it looks like they're putting it as the liver. You see it's over to this side, which is very fascinating. Virgo is the stomach, and vaguely they relate it to the intestines. Libra, of course, is the kidneys and kind of like the sides of the body. Scorpio is the genitals and I think the bladder. And sometimes they say it can be the bowels as well. Sagittarius is the thighs, also partially the genitals. Capricorn, which is like a goat fish. So I should say the archer, yeah, and the scales, and also the Scorpio is the scorpion. Going on, so the goatfish is the knees. The Aquarius is the water bearer, so it's a it's like a jug of water. Or is the ankles and the calves, and the fish is the feet. And here we can see Aries, the head, eyes, adrenals, blood pressure. Taurus, throat, ears, shoulder, etc. Gemini, lungs, nerves, arms, all these like relations. And of course, if you understand Aries is fire and Mars, Taurus is Earth and Venus. There's all these relations which you can understand things better, or you can just look at these little diagrams. And so here here we go. Primary association: your head, neck, shoulders, chest, sides. Sides, interesting for Leo. Spine, upper back. Wow, okay, I didn't know that. Libra, the butt. Very fascinating. The butt. Okay, the buttocks. Yeah, I guess that all kind of relates. Virgo, definitely the belly. Yes, genitals for Scorpio. So all these, we can see these relations, right? All these relations. One fascinating thing I always thought is that you've got the legs, which have their zodiac sign, but like, what about the hands? What about the wrists? And I guess you could, vaguely relate things to, one another. Maybe like the feet and the hands are similar, and I don't know, whatever. So thing is, you can focus on these areas and acquire or like practice the energies of these, or, so to speak, tap into the energies of these. And you think this is like the master television remote controller. Maybe it's like you're tuning a radio station, for the older folks. You're tuning your AM radio to a certain station, or you're clicking the button. You're running, I don't know, the program or the web browser, opening the web page of a certain location of the body and interacting with energies. And what does that really mean? Let's go to Aries, which is a very fascinating one. If you focus on the head, the top of the head, so like your brain kind of region, we see this nice little man here, being the ram. This is your like fiery will. This is willpower. Straight up, it's willpower. It's people who are hot-headed, who are just angry, this is the energy of that, but it's also the energy of like initiating, fighting. Aries is just, if you want someone to initiate something and to do something, that's the Aries force. You need to initiate, to start, to do something, and to will yourself into power. If you want to know the energy of a king, of a ruler, it's energies. It's Aries, it's the ram. It's this energy of the head. It's the electrostatic point of the body. If you think of the genitals maybe being like the magnetic, the yin point of the feet, the head in the Aries is that electrostatic part of the body. electricity. It's like, you rip a power cable, it's like zapping in there. That is this energy. And if you focus here, you will get that. So, and red, of course, relates to it. So if you are, melancholic, if you're depressed, if you are, and you want, because of course, it is important to go through depression, and sometimes when you're sad, melancholic or just lethargic, the body needs to process things. But if you want to kind of hack the body and the processes and unlock the Aries energy, you can put your focus on the head, the top of the head. And of course, if you do it too much, you become crazy and angry and all these, and too willful. There is too much and Aries energy. You can have too much. It is a very poisonous energy. It is a very powerful energy. Aries people are one of the strongest, if not probably the strongest zodiac sign. Now you understand that. Now we can focus on another one. Focus on Virgo, the belly, the intestinal region, right? This is kind of like the stomach as well. This is where worries start to come forward. So if you're always focusing on this region, you become more earthly and more mercurial. You become more detail orientated. Perfectionistic. You want to clean and get rid of everything that's wasteful, or it's it can be good when working with the earth. It can be good for like a slow, stable form of intelligence, right? So again, the point that I'm trying to illustrate is that you can focus on these areas and you can develop the qualities of them. If we look at Gemini, the shoulders and arms. If people who have very broad shoulders, you can see the Gemini quality of them. Like the rest of the body is kind of small or undeveloped, or whatever. The shoulders, the shoulders is just very much on point, and you can notice that they're very smart, those people. You want to develop the air and the mercurial qualities, you focus on the shoulders and the arms and kind of around the throat. Of course, Taurus is the jaw and the throat and the lower head, and this is more of a stable, it's Venus and Earth. So you want to learn to sing. You want to learn to, Taurus is very constructive. To me, Taurus is building stuff. It's like hobby building almost. Taurus people, they get really into hobby kits, any kind of little crafts, arts and crafts and painting and and Libra is more it's like a dancer almost. It's like they take painting and they turn it into the next kind of level. It's got a little bit too much sauce to it. It becomes a little erotic almost. This is the best way to put it. Libra, people think Scorpio is the sexual sign. They're more maybe the inwardly sexual sign, where they don't really communicate that much. Libra is, their search history on the internet is nothing but pornography. Libras, they would write the best erotic novels. These are the kinds of people that they understand people, they understand art, they understand beauty, they understand sex and love. And of course, focusing on the kidneys and the lower back region, I guess the hips and the butt, is how you develop that quality. It is sweetness. Libra is excessive sweetness. It's like candy that is, again, the same way Aries is poisonous because it is so fiery. It is electrical fire, like that plasma. Libra is poisonous because it is so sweet. It is so, just refined sugar to its end point, where sugar is very Libran. Alcohol Libran or Venusian people love alcohol and sugar and flowers and anything lovely that smells nice, right? Sagittarius, of course, the thighs. You focus on the thighs and you want to move. You want to kind of move around, and if you like riding a bicycle or a motorcycle or a car or whatever, that's very Sagittarian. The active, what is a horse? Sagittarius is basically the horse. You can think of it that way. It's also Sagittarius relates a lot to sex as well. What a horse is known for. they're the king of that, of the genitals, so to speak, and the legs. That's kind of what the animals are relating to. Again, if you want to develop that quality, it's Jupiter and fire for Sagittarius. You can focus on the legs, or even just as you're walking, you can just focus kind of on the thighs and just feel what it's like to get more power there. And then, of course, Capricorn being the knees. If you want, again, it's Saturn and Earth, stability. It's like positions in society. It's rules and regulations and security and all this kind of stuff. You want more of that. You focus on the knees. Going up, we haven't talked about Cancer, so the kind of the chest, the belly. Cancer, again, it's moon and water. They're kind of... Cancer people they're good and bad. They're kind of a bit of a pain in the ass, but they're like good people, I guess. It's the kind of people that they're a good person, but you kind of have to like sit through a little bit of whining and moaning, and then it's like, okay, then when once you get that over and done with, or whenever they bring up things, it's like, okay, whatever. But they're a good person. They can, I think this is body fluids. So I think if you want to store body fluids or something, or work on that, I'm not sure. I don't really know much about the Cancer energies, but I think that the boobs in women relate to Cancer. So maybe women who've got big boobs, very, the breast, like the actual mammary glands being big and developed, the ability to produce fluids. I think that's related to Cancer. I'm not sure. Then, of course, Leo, the stomach, the heart, I guess the spleen. I would imagine the liver, but apparently that's Virgo. Right, so Leo is like the torch inside the body is the best way to say, the pilot light. Here we go. Oh, so the crab is this thing here. I don't know, what is that thing? It looks like the stomach, but it's I don't really know, something. Here we go. Yes, the lions, the sides here of the body, and heart. Interesting. Courage, because again, the sun and fire. Leo is like if you took Aries and you chilled them out a bit. They're usually like the leaders. They're good people. They are naturally, they come out as the leader. They're usually fairly fair, like they got some kind of Libran qualities almost. Good, definitely good people from what I've known. Though, of course, you can only expect so much from fire. It's like you don't come to a fire element person for water related kind of nurturing, like as you would from a Pisces or Cancer or something, right? So it's just, you got to pick your people, I guess. Aquarius, again, I don't really know much about Aquarius. I don't really understand them too well. Ankle, calf, blood vessels, and lower leg. If you feel into the lower leg, it's almost like the best way I can feel it. It's like I'm connected to everything. It's like a spider web or a network. I just kind of feel interconnected with the world. With, I guess, signals, and like that's why they relate Aquarius to like the telecommunications industry and the internet and electromagnetic radiation to an extent. That's like, I don't fully understand it, but yeah, I don't know. It's just something like to do with that. It's air and Saturn, which is one of the most. Wait, is it air and Saturn, and then it's Pisces, Jupiter, and water? I think so. Yeah, air and Saturn for Aquarius. It's the weirdest combination. Because it's air, but Saturn, like the physical, it's kind of like, the way that I saw it is like Libra, because it's air, and Venus is kind of like the lower airs, and then Aquarius is like the upper air, so it's like the electromagnetic radiation almost. I don't know, that's just how I saw it, right? And then Gemini, actually, I don't know, Gemini would be in the middle, maybe? Gemini in the middle between those? I don't know, something like that, because they're all air elements, right? Pisces would be like, Pisces feet, this is kind of like the hobo. This is like the person who's like really fucked up on psychedelics. This is like the person who's just kind of chill. you sometimes you know they're a Pisces, but they're all different. Is the best way to put it, because they're very they pick up on their environment so well, and they merge into their environment so well. They're like mirrors of their environment. But you always know they're a Pisces because there's a feeling to them, which is just the Pisces feeling. Is the best way to put it. And I guess if you want to develop that, as I said, they're like the eternal wanderer and seeker. They're a fish in the water of the void of the world. It's like they can become anything and everything in a way. They are like, it's like the Alpha and Omega. The Aries is the Alpha and the Omega is the Pisces, right? It is, the Aries is the child. Supposedly people who are Aries sign, they say they are young, but young souls. But I don't know. I think after a certain point, you get to pick what you want to be, so to speak. As in, just because someone's a Pisces doesn't mean they're super old. Same way someone's Aries doesn't mean they're super young, but most of the time, like probably 80-90% of the time, it would be. I'm not sure. I really don't know. But Pisces people are chill. No, they're good. They're chill as. They do have issues with they can they're almost like too psychic, where they can kind of like feel too much, and that could be uncomfortable. And also, as I said, like drug addiction, because your Pisces is escaping reality. It's, as I said, being a hobo, or being like a unemployed, or being homeless, or just being outside society, but not being not really like a hermit, but like just a person who just walks into the woods and just kind of gets lost and doesn't really care enough, and then re-emerges a year later and it's just like plays it out as plays it cool, right? Doesn't really care. It's kind of Pisces energy in a way. They just got a full beard and like long ass hair, and they're just dirt all over them, and they're just like, oh hey, how's it going? And he's like, yeah, good, and then just life returns to normal, I guess.